a beautiful day compared to yesterday, or the day before.
Kind of busy.
What a great day.
And then I was worried, like, we'd all sit in the chairs and sink into the ground and flip over backwards.
If you had lots of rain?
Oh, tons. It poured the last 2 days. So, I can't either.
Unreal.
It is unbelievable. Yes, I
I guess everybody knows.
Thank you. To sign the book, please.
Give us an extra one for They have been my sister.
I think we got plenty.
Anyway, we came home and he's drinking grub down the road.
Oh, did you?
Oh, yeah. So I'm told in that barn now we need to start taking the stuff down that we put up.
Yeah, it was unpleasant day.
Oh, yeah.
So those, the salmon are killed.
Well, he was talking. I was going to get him that. Hello. Good morning. Oh, thank you. You had sunglasses on.
I got it.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth.
I'm Ola.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I'm Melvin.
And he was one of those.
Okay, we want to go ahead and get started. If you'd like to find a seat, if you would. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I saw some cars that were continuing to come in, and so I was wanting to give a little bit of time for them to come up. This is really a privilege for me to acknowledge the history of the great community in the county that we live in, Parker County. And this is a unique opportunity for me because this is one of a kind in Parker County. And I want to welcome you to the Texas Historic Commission official subject marker dedication for Parker County. It's oldest historic homestead. And before I go into the presentation of the colors, just in looking through some of the material that was presented to me, this is the original home of William and Elizabeth Woody that was built in 1854. And it predates the American Civil War. And what's unique about this to me that I read, and I won't read all these pages, I promise. But the beautiful thing about this home is it is 162 years of age and is Parker County's only sawn pine lumber walls. And that's in a 910 square mile county with all the history that we have. To have this home with that is very special. And so again, it's a privilege for me. I'm your county judge in Parker County. I thank you for that opportunity. I thank you for this opportunity to MC this, and I want to go ahead and get going with the presentation of the colors. And I would like to, at this point now, to introduce the Springtown Boy Scout Troop 303.
Audience, please rise. Attention.
Y'all don't know what to do. Trying to get me.
Halt. Turn post colors. Post colors. Color guard before. Color guard about face.
to go ahead and introduce Parker County Commissioner Precinct 1, George Conley, that will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
We're going to do both flags now. And everybody's loud and proud, right? All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Thank you.
Isn't he great at doing that? At this time, I would like to introduce Elizabeth and Marc Salvatore as the owners of the historic William and Elizabeth Woody Homestead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think God came through for us today with this weather. Elizabeth and I bought this home 7.5 years ago, not knowing anything about it other than that we fell in love with it immediately, because it was just, we could just tell it was a special place. It was just the feeling when you walked in here, the land. We're on sort of like a little island here, and it was very special to us. Once we started to learn the history, and once we met Kimberly, we soon understood that this was very special. This area, really, after studying it, is the cradle of the expansion westward. And a lot of people came through here. A lot of people were welcomed into this home and stayed here on their way to points further west. So we're very proud to be what we call ourselves stewards of this property, because it means so much to so many, and it really means so much to us. So welcome, and enjoy this beautiful day. Thank you.
Really glad it's not raining, and thank you all for making a journey here. You know, in 1846, what makes a young man and his wife decide that they're going to walk halfway across the United States with a 6-week-old baby? And that just blows my mind. But that journey now has created a journey for us that's been fantastic and brought so many people into our lives. The Woodys, the Lawrences, Kimberly and Craig. You know, without them, none of this would have been possible. It's the history from the family that's been so important to us and really kept us going forward. So thank you for being here. We will be around to answer your questions. Make sure you go all over the place and look upstairs at the beautiful craftsmanship in the attic. It's just a marvel. And today we celebrate William and Elizabeth and the wonderful pioneer spirit and contributions they made to our community.
Thank you, Elizabeth and Marc. At this time now, I would like to introduce Mr. Clarence Colwell, who will lead us in the invocation of the dedication.
Well, Kim told me to say several things, but I'm a little bit fearful that I'll say something that somebody else has already prepared. But there's one thing I'll say that I've remembered about this place. There, I guess, after Samuel Woody, the main owner was Jeff Woody, and Mr. Woody was a cattle trader, and he brought cattle up to my dad's, and we had a dairy, and we bought cattle from him, and so on. But I had some rabbits that I needed to sell, and I didn't know what to do. Mr. Woody said, well, I'll just take you up to Bridgeport to the cattle sale, and we'll sell the rabbits there. And you know, I've always said there were significant people in my life that kind of steered me right or took care of me, and I just you could say just really loved me. And Mr. Woody was one of those guys. And I remember it's been about 80 years since I walked down that creek with Mr. Woody to look at a bull down there one day when I was about 5 or 6 years old with my dad. But every time I drove by this house, I always thought about Mr. Woody and what he did for me. And I think that's the way we are as a little kid when some older person shows us some kindness or kind of guides us to do some things. Mr. Woody did that for me. And to a little kid, that was pretty special. Now let us pray. Father, how fitting it is today that we have a beautiful, sunshiny day for the dedication of this home. Father, as you protected it through the years from all kinds of things, it really is fitting that when we come to celebrate its 162nd year, that you gave us this beautiful, shiny day. Father, the Woody family, when they came here, they were, I think, the kind of family that, the Bible says, love your neighbor as yourself. And Father, they really loved the people around here. They treated the Indians with respect. They traded different things, food and things that the Indians might need or that the Woodies might need. And the kindness showed there was one reason that this house is still standing today. When the Indian Wars came, because of the friendship between these people, Father, you protected this house and you saved it for a day like this. And Father, this house served the community in many ways. It served the community as a church, served the community as a town meeting place. It served the community as students boarded here that went to the college up at Veal Station. And it was a refuge for people as they traveled through here. It was where they could spend a night safely from fear of any kind of problem. Father, it's just unreal to us sometimes how you protect the place. You protected, as we said, from the burning of the houses and barns that the Indians did in the wars. You protected this place. You protected this place and used it in so many different ways. You protected it from the weather, the storms, the hail. There's tornadoes came by. I think they kind of went on each side of this house. So Father, you protected this house all these years for a special day like today. And as it served many people, it served the Woody families as they generation after generation lived here, raised their families here. This was a place to me that just radiated love and honor, and just a special home that I looked at every time I passed from the time I could remember until now. Father, we want to thank you for today and thank you for what you've done for the people in this community through this house. For we ask it in the precious name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Colwell. That was lovely. At this time, I wanted on the presentation of commendations, I would like to we're going to do the first one, Senator Cruz. If we could go ahead and come up with that and have Elizabeth and Mark, if you would, please join us here and have them present and holding this while we read this. The United States Senate Certificate of Commendation presented to the Salvatore family in celebration of the Texas Historical Commission official Texas Historical Subject Marker, dedicated of the William and Elizabeth Woody Homestead, in testimony whereof I have hereunto signed my name on the 23rd day of July, 2019, Washington, D.C., Ted Cruz, Texas. you. You want to get a picture of this real quick here? I want to do that. Pictures? You can't take it that quick.
I have instructions.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, on the second of the presentations, I would like to have Senator Fallon's outreach director come up. If I got that name, I probably didn't, but Jennifer Lundy, if you would come up and join us on the stage with your proclamation and your presentation, if you would.
The State of Texas resolution, whereas the William and Elizabeth Woody Homestead in Parker County has been recognized with a Texas historical marker, and whereas originally from Tennessee, William and Elizabeth Woody moved to Texas in 1847. In 1854, Mr. Woody built a barn on their land and began construction on a 4-room farmhouse of yellow pine, which he completed shortly before the birth of his 4th child, Samuel Woody Houston, in January 1855. In its early years, the house served as a way station for pioneers, a community gathering place, and a cobbler's workshop for Mr. Woody. And whereas in 1881, Sam Woody purchased the property from his father after he passed away in 1928, his 5 children inherited the family home, which became the residence of Jephthah Dudley Woodley Sr. until his death in 1963. Ike and Evelyn Woody Hoskins took over the farm in 1972, and they passed it to their son Woody Hoskins in 1985. Whereas the Woody Homestead consists of 3 structures: a pioneer farmhouse in the dog trot style, a hand-hewn oak log timber barn, and an early pioneer smoker. During renovations to the house in 2015, a pair of shoes were found concealed in the walls, perhaps placed as talismans against bad luck by William Woody as part of an ancient tradition among shoemakers. And whereas the current owners, Elizabeth and Marc Salvatore, are committed to preserving the historic architectural integrity of the Woody home, which has been occupied for 160 years as a private residence. And whereas, for more than a century and a half, the Woody Homestead has contributed to the rich heritage of Parker County and its special role in the history of North Texas, and is truly deserving of this special recognition. Now therefore be it resolved that the placement of a Texas historical marker at the William and Elizabeth Woody Homestead be commemorated, and that the Woody and Salvatore families be commended for the preservation of this historic home. Senator Pat Fallon.
Thank you, Jennifer. At this time, I would like to have Kimberly come up and give the present the accommodation from Rebecca Shawcross.
This is a declaration letter presented to the Salvatore family from the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, Great Britain. It is my greatest pleasure to confirm that the William Woody concealed shoe find, comprising of 2 men's single leather boots, a piece of a woman's garment lace, and a booklet program, have been registered on the internationally recognized Concealed Shoe Registry at the Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, Great Britain. Northampton Museum and Art Gallery have been recording concealed shoe discoveries since the 1960s. The register was established by Miss June Swan, the former boot and shoe curator at Northampton Museum and Art Gallery from 1950 to 1988. The shoes found and added to the register range from the 16th century to the early 20th century, and although the majority have been found in the UK, there are examples from around the world, including North America, Australia, and many European countries, including Germany, France, and Austria. The oldest concealed shoe in the shoe collection is from the year 1530 and was found in the ceiling of an Oxford University college. There are just over 2,000 individual finds sites recorded, which record the discovery of over 3,000 shoes plus other items like scraps of paper, marbles, bottles, and bones. The William Woody concealed shoe find is to date the oldest shoe find in America and the first found in Texas. Northampton Museum and Art Gallery are delighted to be able to confirm its addition to the register. Rebecca Shawcross, Senior Shoe Curator, Northampton Museum and Art Gallery, Great Britain.
Y'all would take your glasses off and see your eyes. Okay, here we go.
Thank you, Kimberly. I want to go ahead now and introduce Dr. Harold Lawrence, the Parker County Historical Commission Chairman, who was for 10 years, and a present member of the Parker County Historical Commission and owner and curator of the Museum of the Americas. Would you come on up, please.
Those of you who know me know that I'm something of a rambler, and today my talk is a bit of a rambling tale, with a little bit of this and a little bit about that. And so these abouts are going to form something of the background of what was the conditions that the Woodys found when they came to Texas. I end with about the Woody house, whose marker dedication is the occasion of today's ceremony, and we'll let the marker speak to that subject. I'd rather begin with a little bit of I'd like you to use your imagination and visualize a line which stretches from Laredo, which was a town on the Rio Grande, Mexican town on the Rio Grande back in the 1830s. And imagine a line that stretched from there up to Sherman Denison, up in the far northeast corner of the state. That line, that imaginary line, later became a line for a federal highway, and we now know it as the Interstate 5 corridor that stretches from there clear up into the upper Midwest. It's not an accidental line. That line roughly follows the western boundary of the Grand Prairie of Texas, which is rather significant in itself, in that it was the Great Prairie. It was the Great Prairie of Texas. And if you know the Woody place, just up here in Veal Station, you'll know that the Grand Prairie still exists and still is pristine in a good part of Parker County. That's part of the history. Well, in 1836, Sam Houston recognized the fact that the Comanches were a significant problem on the frontier, and he reached an agreement with them to draw a line that virtually followed that same western boundary of the Grand Prairie as the line between Comancheria and the Anglo settlements of Texas. It's a line that held that was firmly held in 1845 when Texas joined the Union, became a state. The federal forces came in, and General William Jenkins Worth came to San Antonio to establish garrisons to protect against incursions from the Mexicans. Really, the Mexican War was just over, and he was one of the heroes of that war. And he feared that there would be some kind of insurgents from the south. But together with Sam Houston recognized the dangers of the Comanches, and in his mind he imagined a series of forts that would extend from Laredo up to Sherman-Denison, and that would be a protection between the Comanche and the Anglo settlers that were coming in to Texas. Once he thought of the idea, he realized that it might impose more problems and encourage more problems between the settlers and the Indians than not having the forts. So he let that delay. But he did send a scout up, and the scout that he sent up was his lieutenant, the Brevet Major Ripley Allen Arnold. And this part of I'm going to read you a little bit here. Major Ripley Allen Arnold arrived near the confluence of the West Fork and Clear Fork of the Trinity River on May 8th, 1849. Upon hearing of the death from cholera of his commanding officer, General William Jenkins Worth, in San Antonio, Arnold dubbed his camp Camp Worth. By December, the camp had been moved to a bluff above the river and renamed Fort Worth, and Fort Worth was to be abandoned just a short 4 years later on September 17th, 1853, and the garrison moved to Fort Belknap just 11 days after Arnold was killed, following an argument with his with the post surgeon, Dr. Joseph M. Steiner. The significance of the fort was to protect, and it was to set up a line of safety between the Anglo settlers and the Indians. No sooner did they set up the fort than the line was violated, and among those who violated that line were the Woodies. Can't deny it. But there's more to this than that. That should be the end of this tangential digression, but that would be to miss a curious tale of Woody family history. After the fort was abandoned, the remaining buildings were soon occupied by squatters, and not too long after that, this settlement on the bluff challenged Birdsville for a seat of Tarrant County. It was put to a vote, but that vote was determined by 14 men from Wise County, led by Sam Woody, William's father, who cast votes for Fort Worth. With 7 votes favoring Fort Worth, the county seat was moved from Birdsville. At the October 2019 meeting of the Tarrant County Historical Society, Craig and Kimberly Woody Boretsky became members of the society. When Kimberly was introduced as a Woody, there was immediate recognition of the Woody family's contribution, especially to the history of Tarrant County. But now for something about the Woody family. G.A. Holland's History of Parker County, the Double Log Cabin, observes that William Woody came to Texas in 1846, settling in Fannin County, which incidentally was the frontier in 1846. The fort wasn't built till 1849, which extended the frontier. 2 years later, Samuel Woody, William's then 53-year-old father, arrived and settled on Ash Creek in Tarrant County, where for a short time W.T. Reynolds and the Barkers and the Godfreys and son William, over the years they had become interrelated, were to settle there for a short time before moving on to an area later known as the Veal Station community in what became Parker County. Sam Woody's original log cabin was a single room with no windows and but one door. Mention of Sam's cabin seems appropriate since the original portion of the structure known as William Woody's barn, which was located directly across the old Springtown Road from Woody House, was just such a structure of hand-hewn planked logs. Could that have been William Woody's first home on Walnut Creek? It's a question that we'll never have an answer for. That structure, which had been virtually destroyed by a tornado, the Salvatores have salvaged for reconstruction in the near future. Holland's source was undoubtedly an anonymous history of Texas. This is the title of the book, History of Texas, together with the biographical history of Tarrant and Parker counties, published in 1895, which offers a curious read to anyone interested in this subject. Now, with that, I'd like to say that with the subject of about the Woody House, whose marker dedication is the occasion of today's ceremony, let the marker speak for itself.
At this point in time now, I'd like to have Kimberly Boretsky come up and recognize the distinguished guests, if you would, please.
Thank you, Dr. Harold Lawrence. He's become very close to our family. He's very dear to us, and his beautiful wife, Elizabeth, cannot be with us today. But thank you so much, Harold. Now, I hope I can get through the rest of the day. Good afternoon. My name is Kimberly Boretsky, and I am a third great-granddaughter to William and Elizabeth Woody. My parents are Melvin and Sheila Woody. Thank you all so very much for attending this dedication ceremony today. At this time, I would like to recognize our distinguished guests. You have already been introduced today to Parker County Judge Pat Deen, to Commissioner of Precinct 1 George Conley, to Mr. Clarence Colwell, and Dr. Harold Lawrence. As I call your name, would you please just stand briefly? The Sheriff of Parker County, Sheriff Larry Fowler. Thank you so much. Next, I would like to recognize Mrs. Rosalie Gregg of Wise County. First, Rosalie had a birthday recently, and she turned 99 years old. Rosalie Gregg served as Wise County Historical Commission Chairman from 1964 until 2014, a total of 50 years. Rosalie helped to organize and publish 3 volumes of A History of Wise County, A Link to the Past. And Rosalie's ancestors include the Woody, Mann, and Lindsay families. Thank you, Rosalie. And one other very special tribute I'd like to make is the reason that the Wise County Historical Museum stands today is Rosalie. And Rosalie has a very special room dedicated to the Lost Battalion. And I would invite each and every one of you to visit that beautiful museum of history and that incredible room. Mr. Kerry Clower, President, Wise County Historical Society. The Mayor of the City of Springtown, Mr. Greg Hood. Mrs. Gloria Elam, Parker County Historical Commission. Mrs. Marilyn Fackler. There's Marilyn. Parker County Historical Commission and Volunteer Extraordinaire of Springtown Legends Museum. Mr. Bill Warren. Thank you, Bill. Parker County Historical Commission and Abandoned Cemetery Association. And you met earlier Ms. Jennifer Lundy. She is the regional coordinator for Senator Pat Fallon, Senate District 30. Thank you. Judy Flanagan. Judy is the district director for State Representative Phil King, District 61. Ms. Ann Tucker Moody. Ann is the president of Silver Creek Heritage Society. And I'd like to recognize the Springtown Boy Scout Troop 303 for their wonderful contribution to our ceremony today. I would like to introduce the media next. Is Mr. Richard Green here? Okay. Autumn Owens. Autumn, would you share a little bit about your experience living in this home?
Actually, I think my mom really does. We lived here 17 years.
Come. Yeah.
Autumn, you want to come stand with me and give me moral support? Well, we moved into this home in 1995, and Arvel Newby and Chuck Fowler had renovated the property, and they had a bulldozer to tear the home down, and Arvel stopped them, and they proceeded to renovate, and then we bought the house and lived here for about 17 years, and put some of the fencing in, and the pool, and just, it's got a lot of memories for us. It's a little bittersweet to come back and see everything and how nice everything looks. It's fantastic, and what a great honor to the community to put the marker in. You want to say anything on that?
I grew up here and attended Springtown ISD, and then eventually made my way to Tarleton, and now I work for the Weatherford Democrat. So a lot of memories out at the creek too, of the kids fishing and with our neighbors, the marshes, and just so many good memories.
At this time, I would like to move to what this is about in the historical subject marker. We would go ahead and we're going to go out through the gate and then just follow the edge of the road. We're going to go out to the road here and then follow the edge of the road, and we're going to come and circle the marker that's right out here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'll lead you out, and we'll go ahead and do that now. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, and look at you. You're such a big boy. What a good kid you are. You've grown a bit. Obviously. Yeah. You were so good during your ceremony. Yes, he was.
Okay, we're going to, first I want to thank Sheriff Fowler for the presence of the vehicles to make sure we're safe as we walk down here through the road. Thank you for that. Want to, and it is my pleasure to introduce Miss Annette Langford, which is the oldest living second great granddaughter, make sure I get that right, to do the unveiling. Thank you very much.
It's a privilege to be the oldest one today.
Okay, my sister, Linda McNatt, and her husband, Bob, are here today from Arkansas. She and I both have fond memories of our paternal grandparents that I will share a few with you. Our grandmother, Mary Ava Woody, born in 1888, was the granddaughter of William and Elizabeth Woody. She and Colin Gray McFadden were married at Veal Station, Texas in 1909. Later in their lives, they moved to Fort Worth in Wichita Falls. They lost their firstborn son in a tragic automobile accident. And when the war started, they had to see their only son, Robert Woody, called Woody, go off to war. Ava contributed to the war effort supporting the boys by rolling bandages with her church lady friends. After the war, she also volunteered in the church nursery, and Linda's first memory of her was being handed over to our mother after church. They lived in what's known as a shotgun duplex in Fort Worth, in the front door, straight out to the back. Linda and I spent nights there often, and we played in the sand and dug up little beds and took their name with us. We saw Grandma kill a chicken by wringing its neck, and I remember we both kind of lost our appetite. Grandma was a wonderful cook. Anything that came from her kitchen was delicious. She had a big black stove and oven and a refrigerator with a motor on the top. Everything was cooked to perfection. Father's son Woody was in the Navy Seabees. She sent him homemade cookies and cakes. In his later years, he dictated his reflections on the war and remembered writing to her and said, quote, "I received a box of cookies and newspapers in good shape. Thanks for sending them." And another, "I'm looking forward to getting that cake you wrote me about, Mother. You better send it direct rather than through FPO so it won't be in the mail too long. I'll get my share of it, but of course I'll have to let the other boys in on it too because eating mail is considered community property in the home." Later, our dad Woody moved our family to Dallas because of his new architectural position. But we traveled to Fort Worth almost every week to take Grandma to the grocery store. She never learned to write a check or drive a car, but she could sure pick out perfect green beans. Linda and I just stood there and watched what she was doing and how long it was taking, and we were a little bored with the whole thing. A few years later, she and Grandpa came to live with us in Dallas. I remember her picking purple grapes for Waldorf salad and snapping the green beans very carefully for our Thanksgiving dinner. She was meticulous in food preparation and was a big help in the kitchen. You can tell that we have good memories of food in this family. As time went on, her dear husband died, and she moved to Grand Prairie to live with her sister Bimby, also known as both Weiss and Minnie Lee, which is her real name. They both had lots of good sister times together, sharing memories. Julie Perkins remembers Bimby and her Aunt Ava sitting on the back porch shelling black-eyed peas, and thought that they had just bought from Mr. Smith, who drove a truck through the neighborhood every day selling things from his garden. They were both such good cooks. Our mom and dad, Rosella and Woody, did bring her back to Dallas, and she died peacefully in Doctor's Hospital and was buried in Iowa Park, Texas, beside her beloved husband and her firstborn son, Colin Gray. Thank you.
it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Melvin Woody, who's the oldest living second great grandson.
This is what is up here on the sign, so this is what I'm going to read. And it says, William Bill Woody, 1824 to 1915. That's a long time. About 91 years. One of the first Anglo settlers in Parker County was born in Roane County, Tennessee. While living in the eastern hills bordering North Carolina, he married Elizabeth Lydia Farmer from 1882 to 1879. They were married in 1846. In December 1846, 6 weeks after the birth of their son, the Woody family set out to Texas on foot with few possessions. 6 months later, they arrived in Honey Grove in Fannin County, where they met up with other family members and established a working farm. In 1851, the family traveled to White Settlement in Tarrant County, where they stayed until their home was constructed in 1855. Located in the Veal Station community, the Woody family built a 1.5-story, 4-room dog trot home using hand-sewn yellow pine lumber transported by ox from New Orleans. Once their house was complete, it served several distinct and important purposes for the Veal Station community. The property was used as refuge and stagecoach stop. For pioneer travelers, a boarding house for college students attending Parsons College, and a community meeting place for all religious denominations in the area, as well as a cobbler's workshop for hand-cobbled boots and shoes. In 1858, Bill Woody and community members built a 2-story frame meeting house on the property, which provided a church, Masonic Hall, town hall, common school, and later Parsons College, chartered in 1874, for the town of Veal Station. Elizabeth and Bill Woody are buried in the Veal Station Cemetery, both examples of rugged individualism that expanded the state and country in the 19th century.
Thank you. This concludes the ceremony, and on behalf of the Salvatore family, we thank you all for attending this special ceremony, and would ask that you stay and enjoy refreshments, stay and get to spend time talking to those that have had an opportunity to speak with the Salvatores also, and again, thank you for your attendance here today.
Looks like you got a good stand to ride. I wonder if we're going to have
I've always wondered that. Johnny's daughter.
And then upstairs, we didn't even know that door on the front of the house was there until we. This right here? Yes. Yeah, we opened it up and the original stairs go up to the upstairs. Yeah. Yeah, and don't miss upstairs because the joinery upstairs in the attic is beautiful.
The people next in the backyard over, is that a boy?
It's Deen and Lyle.
thought it was the old Nancy place. But
I don't know.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Would you recognize the number of the Nancy? I love that old hardware.
That old bathroom is. No, they're actually here on the dining table.
Excuse me.
All right. So where
Yeah.
So the shoes are right on the
Yeah,
table.
that's here.
Falling asleep.
Yeah. Well, John tells this story about his pet raccoon who got in here. And apparently it had gotten ten up on one of these.
Of course, Kimberly managed to make an awful lot of that happen, right?
Yeah, she did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, goodness. I'm glad we're here.
Glad the day is
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
and the weather.
Yes, I know. I was a little worried, but
Yeah, yesterday especially.
I knew we would have. I didn't think we were gonna have rain, but I was afraid like all the chairs would sink into
Yes,
the
you
grass.
do.
right.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
Yeah, really?
Thank you. We just wanted to visit.
Yeah.
Out of-
Yeah.